are confident in the victory of good over evil. Blessed.
Your presence surround us with love, and we must all agree that it's time to stop pretending we cannot see. And if we all should close our eyes, we would never recognize the difference between the touch of a black or a white hand. So why is there all the fighting across the land? To all the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all the boys and girls, Jah hear us just the same. No make sense we fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
Instead of the war, take a look, and instead of the violence, read a book and read about the history. Try solve the mystery of Willie Lynch and the others, how they enslaved the mind of your mothers. Tell you that your word is found in your color, but they never told us we were brothers and sisters. All the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all the boys and girls, let peace reign. No care how you call him name, Jah hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
How do we view this world we live in? Is this really worth the killing? I don't really know, my thoughts differ. How do we want this world to be? Is this our legacy? Forefathers turning in them grave because of how we behave. They tried to set us free, but we're still slaves. To all the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all who's never heard, let peace reign. No care how you call him name, to hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
Your presence surround us with love, and we must all agree that it's time we stop pretending we cannot see.
If we all should close our eyes, we would never recognize the difference between the touch of a black or a white hand. So why is there all this fighting across the land?
To all the people of the world, let peace reign.
Check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Check.
All the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all who's never heard, let peace reign. Look here how you call him name, Jah hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
To all the people of the world, let peace reign.
Tell all the boys and girls,
No care how you call him name, to hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
look here how you call him name, just the same. Let us unite, let it rain all over, let it rain all over, let it rain all over. 'Cause
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? No justice. No justice. No justice.
between the touch of a
No
black
justice.
rose.
When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives.
To all the people
When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. No justice. No justice. Hey, nobody talking. No justice. No justice. No justice. When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. All right. No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. Until we come up with a master plan. Stop the racism demand. Unless we come up with a master plan. Stop the racism demand. No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives.
How do we view this world we live in? Is this really worth the killing? I don't really know, my thoughts differ. How do we want this world to be? Is this our legacy? Forefathers turning in them grave because of how we behave. They tried to set us free, but we're still slaves. To all the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all who's never heard, let peace reign. No care how you calling him, to hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
Your presence surround us with love, and we must all agree that it's time we stop pretending we cannot see.
If we all should close our eyes, we would never recognize the difference between the touch of a black or a white hand. So why is there all this fighting across the land?
To all the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all the boys and girls, let peace reign. Not care how you calling names, Jah hear us just the same. No make sense we fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
All the people of the world, let peace reign. Tell all who's never heard, let peace reign. Look here how you're calling him, Jah hear us just the same. No make sense we fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
To all the people of the world, let peace reign.
Tell all the boys and girls,
No care how you calling him, to hear us just the same. No make sense to fight, let us unite, let peace reign.
let it rain all over. Look here how you're calling him, just the same. Let us unite, let it rain all over. Let it rain all over. Let it rain all over. Cause we You see him on the streets, he's always there. No one's ever heard him speak, although he'll stare. Soon, very soon, he'll open his mouth, and you'd be surprised of the words that come out. Might be a father that you turned your back on, or your brother you haven't seen in so long. You see him on on the streets with rags for clothes. How did he end up on them streets? No one knows where he is from or what he's about. But you'd be surprised if he should open his mouth. It might be a prophet that you read of in books, or your savior, despite how he looks. So don't you ever jump to judge. Don't you ever jump to judge. Looks may be deceiving, but every man's got the meaning. Let me tell you, you might end up in his shoes on the corner, singing the blues. Da-da, 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 da, da-da, 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 da, don't you ever jump to judge. Look beyond the cover before you jump to judge. Looks might be deceiving. Every man's got their meaning. It might be a father that you turned your back on, or your brother.
Good afternoon.
That your fingers point on.
When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives. Black lives. When I say black lives, you say matter. Black lives. Black lives. We want to thank you for coming out with us a little bit this afternoon. We won't keep you for too long, but we have some important things that we want to be able to say today. First up, without any delay,
you turned your back on, or your sister.
we're going to have our first speaker.
Fingers point on. We are the people of the streets. We all are one.
Coming
No
to the
matter
podium
how you see
is a young man
one nation, and soon, very soon, we've
who
got
lives
to
the
be
struggle.
strong and
Just
look
recently, on
beyond
last Friday,
this
he
mass
revealed for the
confusion.
first time, even to his mom, that he understands the struggle. Because you see, the march isn't just about the lives that reside in America and are Americans. But a lot of us, as BB Islanders, we have resided or reside in America. So coming to the podium is a young man who has to look over his shoulder for 8 minutes on his way from campus to his house. Coming to the stage is a young man who has had to encounter police, a BVI lander, someone who we call our own, who have had to say to police, I promise you, I live in this neighborhood. Coming to the stage is a young man who is afraid to tell his mother that every time he leaves class for the higher education that she sent him to get, he is worried that he may not make it back to our territory. Coming to the stage, put your hands together for Nicoy Hendrickson.
Good day, everybody. First and foremost, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out and joining. Put our hands together for all joining the fight to dismantle racism in the BVI and across the world. My segment is entitled, The Struggle is Us. Although different in every country, the struggle of racism is present in each and every corner of the world. However, similarly, we as Black people within the British Virgin Islands have struggled over generations to improve things as it relates to dismantling racism, just as African Americans and Blacks all across the world have fought to accomplish the same feat. Nevertheless, systemic institutionalized racism still exists worldwide. Institutionalized racism has been the detrimental trauma of America, dating all the way back to its founding as a nation and its writing of its constitution. President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation and executive order given on September 22nd of 1862, coming in effect on January 1st the following year, did not end racism. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Freedom March's efforts did not erase racism. The 6-day Los Angeles riots in 1992, following the acquittal of 15-year-old Latasha Harlins' killer and the 3 white officers who savagely beat African-American Rodney King, did not erase racism. The marches in New York in 1997, following black male Haitian man Abner Louima, did not erase racism. The protests held in over 100 US cities following the acquittal of white police officer George Zimmerman, who's known for killing Trayvon Martin, did not erase racism. However, they sparked the fire that we are now burning until we completely dismantle racism and cast it out of the world. Each generation has been able to achieve more than what the previous generation thought they could have even achieved. For example, many of us did not think that a black man would become president of the United States of America. Many of us did not think that the words Black Lives Matter would be painted on 16th Street, Northwest North of Lafayette Square, which is part of the President's Park near the White House, and renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza Northwest. Many of us did not think we would live to see the day that NASCAR would prohibit the Confederate flag from all events and properties. Many of us did not think that we would see the day that the NCAA would expand its Confederate flag policy to prevent any NCAA championship event from being played in states where the symbol has a prominent presence. Black people rose up. We stood for something. We brought all of these changes previously mentioned into effect. We did that. We continued to fight as a people that social activists before us sparked. MLK dreamt that Mississippi, which he described as a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, would one day be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. As the only state whose flag still comprises of the Confederate flag, the recent NCAA ban directly affects Mississippi. Hence, I think it is safe to say that his Mississippi dream and his other dream of us all standing together is slowly but surely coming to pass. Martin Luther King Jr. said a lot of things. And another one of those things included transforming the jangling discords of the American nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. This fight is far from easy for the United States as well as the rest of the world. What is incumbent with our generation is to understand where we're going. We need to understand in the BVI that dismantling of white supremacy is not completed in the US, not completed in Europe, nor the BVI, and each generation needs to push it forward. Each generation has a part to do. We need to move this beyond just a march and opportunities to go to a certain school, but now fight for the removal of symbols of white supremacies. The murder of George Floyd was not about Confederate statues. It was not about Aunt Jemima's rebranding, NASCAR banning of the Confederate flags, nor companies blacking out on Tuesday. But we need to understand the progression of Black Lives Matter movement, which is intimately connected with the removal of all of these oppressive symbols. Dismantling white supremacy is not just a US problem. It is not just a European problem. It's not just an Asian problem. It's a global problem. We live in a community where white people get a certain privilege based off of the assumption of credibility simply because of the color of their skin. And it is a trend that a lot of us as a people perpetuate throughout the territory. They are almost associated with the majority culture of the world in our predominantly black community. The fact that we are not in the US does not mean that we do not view young black men in a certain light. It's the same profiling tactic that many locals have against scooter riders, where we think that they are up to no good, or the stigma that some of us have against Muslim and other women in our community wearing the hijab, the niqab, the burqa, the chador, the kaimar, which is the clothing garment that they wear to cover their head and neck and other body parts per their respected religion. Another thing that we are not mindful of in the BVI is that we have the luxury of living with the illusion that we don't have to be fearful of certain injustices and stomp out certain prejudices. That's why this Black Lives Matter movement should be prominent, not only in other countries, but also right here in the BVI. The movement is not just against police brutality. Police brutality just happens to be the most vivid example of white supremacy and its effect on the black population. Despite the fact that it is the most vivid example, it's far from the only issue. Black Lives Matter is about dismantling white supremacy. My first learned definition of culture was that culture is a way of life. I say that to bring across the point that this is bigger than black and white. It starts with our whole way of life. The reason America has been unable to solve their police brutality issue is because they have been unable to eradicate that culture from within their communities. People are also saying that they are tired of hearing about Black Lives Matter and racism. How? Could you imagine how it feels for generations of black people to endure 450 plus years of oppression and discrimination? Black people do not get a timeout from the fear that they carry with them everywhere they go in the world, because it's a reality in our life that does not go away. We've made some progress, yes, but there's also a great frustration because our people continue to be killed. We must continue to push because ignoring it does not make it go away. That's why we're here today, because we understand that you cannot ignore it, no matter which corner of the world you're in. The first time I got to talk about being pulled over by the cops is when I moved to the United States in 2013. That was to complete my secondary education. And imagine, this was just 1 month after George Zimmerman was acquitted of manslaughter for killing Trayvon Martin. Now, everyone who knows me knows that I'm a social butterfly, and exploring the world in all aspects is by far one of my favorite things to do. However, Miss Melissa Amy, whom I lived with in the US, sat with me and told me, Nikoi, this is a different space and quite literally a different world. You cannot walk around with your hoodie on as freely as you do in Tortola. If the police pull you over, stay still. Do not reach for anything whatsoever. Tell them my number and have them call me. Don't even reach for your phone. That's a conversation that white people do not have to have with their children. She insisted that I was effortlessly able to recite her number to law enforcement if need be, because I don't know why I can tell Lorraine if something like this happened to you, So to the people who find this march in the BVI unnecessary, I beg to differ. To the people who think that racism is some distant issue from us, I beg to differ. Racism has indeed crawled its way in and festered throughout our homeland. But even if you are of set opinions, when should we join the efforts in solidarity with the United States? Would it be when you get the news that the police brutalized me, a son of our soil? When they kill me in the streets of Philadelphia, while I'm walking home from a night class, or grabbing a milk from the corner store up my block, just like when 15-year-old African-American Latasha Harlins was shot and killed by a racially prejudiced cashier while attempting to purchase a $1.79 orange juice. Is that when you will stand up? Because believe it or not, I have been stopped while walking in 20-degree weather, footsteps away from my apartment door, because I had my hoodie on just to protect my little bald head to keep it a little bit warm. The several encounters were extremely fearful. Would it be when you or a family member go to the United States to deliver a baby, and one of those same relatives is shot while heading to get you that chocolate that you've been craving? That's when we'll stand up. Will it be when your girlfriend and children are shot because a police officer mistakenly broke into the wrong hotel room for a noise complaint that was supposedly reported? Now, although I pray that none of these scenarios ever come to pass, I also need for us as a people to understand that this fight is also our fight, and that we need to stand in unity to conquer with the rest of the world against us. We have lost several battles, but we as a people have made significant progress. I implore you to not wait until any of these scenarios come to pass. The time to act is now. And the fact that you're here right now means that you're joining the act. This is a world issue, and we are obviously a part of the world. So this is just as much our issue as anybody else's. And I'll close with this. We know that George Floyd's murder was not the first as a result of police brutality. And we say that it won't be the last. But we need to rise up together in unity to ensure that we do not lose any more of our young men and young women to this narcissistic, institutionalized, systemic disease that we all call racism. The same efforts that we took to protect our beloved land from this unprecedented pandemic are the same efforts that we should take towards protecting our black kings and queens from the disease that is racism. Our parents always say, we could never repay them for anything they've done for us. Similarly, white people can never repay us for all the hardships we've endured at their hands for centuries. However, like a lot of us have joined today with us, we appreciate you. They can begin by acknowledging the roles that they play in this systemic racism and join forces with us to eradicate the oppression and fear that is a staple in every black life. We cannot correct 450 years of oppression with just one march or just a few weeks of protesting. This must be an ever-burning fire until systemic racism and white supremacy has been completely dismantled. Lastly, I would like to emphasize that we are not saying that all lives don't matter. We just want it to be known, understood, and accepted worldwide that Black lives matter just as much as any other life. Thank you. Thank you.
When I say black lives, you say matter? Black lives! Black lives! Black lives! Black lives! Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to shortly say, we are all in one race, the human race. So don't let race disconnect us. Religion separate us. Politics divide us. And wealth classify us. Thank you all.
If you feel uncomfortable, it's okay. Our job today is to make you uncomfortable until we can all become comfortable together. Is that okay? Let me repeat that again. If you feel uncomfortable with whatever we have to say, it's okay. Because our job today is to make you uncomfortable until we can all be comfortable together. Black lives! Come on, black lives! Coming to the podium, we have a poem by poet Levanta Thompson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I call this piece the reminder. And when I raise my fist, you can raise yours with me and say, Black Lives Matter. It doesn't come as every other line, but when it does, just say it along with me. Black Lives Matter. But they always did. Black lives matter. And they always will. When we speak it, does it give you chills? Are you thinking that it may give us willpower, the black power that we already possess? We were already kings and queens. We were always birthed free. And free we will be. Instead, you prefer to call us poverty, drug fiends. But like Aretha said, a rose is still a rose. And Rosa Parks, she sat because she knew her identity. Black Lives Matter. We're here because of police brutality. We're here because of police brutality in all forms. We're here because of George Floyd. Black Lives Matter. His life mattered. Was it his 6'6" stature that caused him to be lowered to the ground after already being on the ground with a knee in his neck? What the heck? He never made it to the squad car. That's why we are here as his squad. That's why all states came out with squads in his honor. Black Lives Matter. He never made it to the station, so we made it to the streets. So some come in peace, and some come with fury, because we know sometimes that justice isn't in the jury. Black lives matter, but they always did. Black lives matter, and they always will. We just think, after those 400 plus years of not getting it, we think it's time we be the reminder to you that Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
King Rastafari, I'm the lifeline, ruling at the heart of all flesh. King Rastafari, I'm my eyesight. A man without a state is like a tree without its roots. Got to be true, got to be true. Strength and protection, giving unto I by I. Well, if you don't got no vision, then you're empty inside. Yeah. Oh, it's like you're gazing in space, wasting time. Oh, you should make no compromise,
Black
no
lives.
religion, it doesn't divide.
Black deaths. Black pain. Black tears. Black hope. Black pride. We're here today to talk about black lives. Coming to the podium, we have one of our own. And I hope that not just his speech, but his story really brings everything home. He's a well-known face in community, but you wouldn't believe that the same place that George Floyd was murdered on the streets, he went to college only a few blocks away and had a very similar experience. Put your hands together for Dr. Drexel Glasgow.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, all. Black lives, black lives, black lives. You guys sound really good. This is really a beautiful occasion. I'm looking, and you know, I got to the park, and I just looked. I saw so many people of different nationalities, and I said to myself, "Wow, this is great." I just want you to show your appreciation and give it up for this group of young people. I mean, they're all sitting here, they're all around. This is such an awesome thing, and you know, we look around and this thing happened, what, about 3 or 4 weeks ago? And persons will say, you know, nothing has happened in the BVI. We look all over the world and we realize people marching, different communities marching, but nothing is happening in the BVI. Well, I am so happy, I'm so glad that this group of kids decided to take this stand. Now, I know one of the reasons that we did not do anything, or we didn't come forth, one, because we were scared, two, because we really didn't know how to navigate through this. But one of the reasons that has stuck, because I've been seeing it on Facebook, I've been seeing it through social media, we say that this has absolutely nothing to do with us. It has happened in America. Let the American citizens, let they burn up the buildings, let them throw cars, let them protest. But we say it doesn't touch home. But as Nikoi said, several of our people, several of our sisters or brothers, family members live in America. And I'm just going to speak briefly, because what happened to George, it's a real situation. And I actually had something happen to me that could have gone south really, really quickly. You know, coming from this community, one of the things we've learned from small is to love all people and respect all people. And you know, I went to school in Florida. I had a roommate, and you know, it's interesting the discussions that you have. And you know, I would always say, you know, I grew up around a white person, and he said, they're not good. And you have these debates. But then I went to Minnesota. I actually studied at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, not too far from where George Floyd was murdered. And it hit really home. It's a somber story, but I'm just gonna give you a bit of it. So, now I'm a studious person, and I went to school as any other day. Usually go to the library and study at night. And so about maybe 11 o'clock, the library closes at 11, so I am going home at 11, and I'm driving my car. But guess what? At that time of the night, you get real hungry. And so I was hungry, and I decided to stop by Burger King to get me a chicken sandwich, because I love that chicken sandwich. I didn't want anything but that chicken sandwich. And so, you know, I got from my car, my vehicle, parked in the parking lot, and I walked into Burger King. Everything seemed to be normal. And I went to the counter. Just to tell you how much I love chicken sandwich, everybody in Burger King, the persons who work there, they know when I come, I'm coming for a chicken sandwich. So I went to the counter. I said, can I have a chicken sandwich, please? They said, the chicken sandwich are finished. And of course, being so hungry, everything in me just sank. But, you know, being respectful, you know, okay, well, maybe tomorrow. And I decided to leave. All of that happened within 5-10 seconds. As I was leaving, I noticed that there were some blue shirts. Well, blue shirts, they call them. Those are the police. On the outside of Burger King. And they were looking in the window pane. And being very non-assuming, I thought nothing of it, because, you know, things happen. And we learned when you go in those, into America or any of those places, that you pay attention to what's going on. So I saw that, and they were looking. So I came out. I actually opened the door, and I went to the bottom of just a little short staircase. As I reached that bottom step, a woman white cop, came up to me, and with gun cocked in the air, pushed me against the wall and asked me if I had a weapon. And if that wasn't bad, she dragged me around the block behind where persons can see, and she slammed me against the wall with her gun to my head like this, asking me if I had a weapon. And then she started to, you know, frisk me. And You know, when several things going through my mind, but one thing that really stopped me to think what was going on is she frisked me, but then she started groping me. So, I mean, this cannot be a regular thing. Her gun is to my head, and I'm slammed against the wall. And she's going on. I mean, that happened for about 2 minutes, if I recall, because, you know, it's something I think about, you know, every now and again. And you learn when police have you like that. If it's a time to be respectful, it's then. That's what I knew then. So Drex ain't saying nothing. Drex is just standing there and just waiting. Every question I answered, and I wasn't dressed in a hoodie. I probably had on a polo shirt with jean pants because I dressed really good as a grad student. You back then you actually had to dress decent because you were a teacher's assistant. And so after she got through frisking me, I mean, I can't really demonstrate because only me. If somebody was here, I would demonstrate with them. But she grabbed me by the shirt and slammed me on the police vehicle, which was right there. And you know the position, they have you spread that kind of way. And she said, "Don't move." And she went around. There was a male cop that was in the vehicle. And, you know, so many things were happening at that very moment. I was confused, but I know I had my sense enough to keep my mouth shut. But because the male was in the vehicle, I said, "Sir," I was very pleasant. I said, "Sir, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but can you tell me what's going on?" No, the police officer, he was very nice. He said, very gingerly, he says, "Well, we just got a call from Burger King to say it was being held up at gunpoint." That's what he told me. When I went into Burger King, there was nothing going on. Everything seemed normal. So he told me that. And I said, "Really?" But I know to keep my mouth shut because it's just me against them. And so after that, so I was outside there for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then I heard on his radio, because they carry a radio right here, I heard somebody said, "Everything checks out." And then he told me I could go. One of the things that was really annoying, you wouldn't believe, it had to be below 0 degrees. Because the parking lot was right there, so close, I left my jacket in the vehicle, and I just ran out. So I had to stand out there in the cold, and I know they knew I was very cold. And, you know, just thinking about it, I left the situation, I turned around, went to my vehicle, and went home. Of course, I'm shaking in my boots. I don't even think I ever told my parents this story. I've told my friends. But I was shaking in my boots. You know, if you're in America and you see the cop car and the light spinning, you automatically, your heart starts to race because you don't know what's going to happen. So I left that scene and I started to play it in my mind. I said, everything looked normal. You know, you have your usual cross-section of persons within Burger King. You know, you have blacks, and Minneapolis itself, I mean, it's a hodgepodge of persons. So you had your Somalians, your Ethiopians, persons from Germany. But it just looked like a normal night. And I thought about what the police said to me. I don't know if I mentioned, he said Burger King was being held up by an African American. That's what he told me. So I thought, well, I ordered my chicken sandwich and I left. Me being the first person of color leaving that building signaled to them that I was an issue. And it's really, I mean, you think about it, you always say that we're together. But, I mean, you're just disappointed. I mean, how can you think that about me? I'm in America. I'm going to school. I have never gotten to any problems, whether at home, America, anywhere. I have always been respectful. If he checked my credential, I was studying for my PhD at that time. So what would have giving him the inclination that I was a problem. And it goes, as again, Nicolai was saying, that this systemic thing, and in Minnesota, I mean, everything that happened with George, it brings home a message because I was there. And just how you see the people behaving right now and reacting to that, this is something that you can actually expect because it's a struggle in America. And it does not just relate to America, but I mean, we always say this in some cases, but we're going to say it in this case as well. When America has a cold, we sneeze. And so it took at this season what happened to George to spark a lot of protests and call for equality throughout the world, even in America. I mean, even in the BVI. It took that to happen. We in our lives, there are defining moments, and I believe George, the murder of George Floyd, was a defining moment. And so, you know, to all my friends, one of the things that we have to consider, persons of color, let today be the last day that you ever thought of yourself less than a human being. That's half of the problem. Let today be the last day in your life that you think of yourself less than a human being. And because you're not a human being, you have an inferiority complex, and you don't think you don't deserve this, and you don't deserve that. Let today be the last. To my white friends, let today be the last day that you feel within your heart that you have a superiority complex over colored people. We're in the BVI, and I mean, I'm grateful enough to be a part of a community that embraces all races. Let today be the last day that you think, because your pigmentation is just a little lighter than mine, that gives you the authority to treat persons with lesser pigmentation any less than you would have treated persons of your color. It's a brutal world, and I'm going to challenge us. If something happens, like what happened to George, don't say it's not the BVI, so it doesn't concern us. Your family members lives in America. Your family members lives in the UK. And I mean, let it not be that something happens to one of your family members or your friends for you to act. This is the time to act, and I'm very happy again to see what's happening here. Again, kudos to the young people. So, as we go through this afternoon, let's think about what we're doing. All lives matter. Yes, we get that. But today, we want to specifically emphasize and let everybody think and know and acknowledge that Black lives matters. So when I say Black lives, you say matters. Black lives? Black lives? When I say Black lives, you say matters. Black lives? Black lives? God bless you.
All right, in my opinion, he didn't do it with enough energy. When I say Black lives, you say matter. Black lives! Black lives! Black lives! Black lives! All right, repeat after me. We need to devise a master plan to stop racism demand. We need to devise a master plan. We need to devise a master plan. We need to devise a master plan. All right. Remember, everyone, the only thing that should be separated by color is your dirty laundry.
I like that, I like that, I like that. The next speaker to come to the stage is one of the people and the voices. Oh, my bad. I was excited for this one, but we'll wait. Coming to the podium are three voices that you will hear from in unison. Amongst those three voices are three of the young people who sat down in the privacy of their homes and decided that they had to do something. Among them were not just the talents of persons who wanted to give back, they were frustrated with a system that they have all gone through at some points in their lives. They were frustrated with the silence in our community. And today, they will sing. Please welcome to the podium, Javon, Kyla, and Via.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, or God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Hear our call.
Virgin Islands, we stand as one, and we won't fall. We are the ones, the future lives inside us. Let's work together, united from the heart.
Black Lives Matter.
the Negro National Anthem, and a song by Javon entitled Virgin Islands United. So put your hands together one more time for our young people. If you are uncomfortable, it's okay, because it will get that way today. And I just want to remind you that we love you, that we must speak truth to power. Dare white privilege. Coming to our podium, please put your hands together for our next speaker, who will talk about or read a letter to white privilege, Amberly Crabb.
Privilege, a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Race, a concept related to human ancestry, the idea that the human species is divided into distinct groups on the basis of inherited physical or behavioral differences. Injustice, an unfair act, violation of right or the rights of another. Racism, the inability or refusal to recognize the rights, needs, dignity, or value of people of a particular race or geographic origin. Colonialism, the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers and exploiting it economically. Warning, this is not a safe space. This is a brave space. Dare white privilege. Long before I knew you, I hated you. I hated you because my history has taught me, and I understood at a very young age, that you are the direct beneficiaries of the blood, sweat, and tears of my ancestors. I understood that from your perspective, economic power and affluence values much more than my life ever would. And to ensure the longevity of your economic dominance for generations unknown, you migrated to the land of my ancestors, deceived my people, oppressed them, enslaved them, distorted their story, which is my history, then created laws and governance to keep me oppressed. White privilege, I see you. I see you in our education systems. I see you in our systems of policing you call law enforcement. I see you in your systems of healthcare. I see you in the economic structures of our society. Your position of superiority and legitimacy and minds of implied inferiority and ignorance, I see it. I see it and I hate it. In the 17th century, you migrated to the land of my ancestors and found a people you were not expecting. You found great and well-established civilizations. Many nations ruled by emperors, kings, and queens. Systems and processes so complex even today, the extent of the true genius of the African people are unknown. The Great Zimbabwe, a wealthy African trade empire, controlling trade in the African coast from the 11th through 15th century, some 200 years prior to our forced journey to the West, we were an established and successful people. Civilizations such as ancient Egypt was the preeminent civilization period, from the great pyramids of the Old Kingdom to the military conquest of the New. Egypt's majesty, with many monuments, objects, and artifacts recovered from archaeological sites, display its greatness, still incomprehensible to you to this day. Kush, or Ethiopia, a region of kingdoms of ancient Nubia, is the only civilization in Africa to this day was never colonialized. And we see your efforts to economically suppress its people. White privilege, for much of my childhood, you made me believe that Ethiopia was a place in Africa with nothing to offer but starving, malnourished children. For that is all that you played on your programmed televised mediums. You knew why you did it. You intentionally did it. An economic conditioning of my little mind, of one of the strongest civilizations of my history, cast as an impoverished people. But you must understand, its legacy is so rich, so strong, your quest to economically suppress her will never prevail. When we sing the Lion of Judah shall break every chain, understand that the Lion of Judah to us is a symbol of strength, kingship, pride of African sovereignty, a people whose lineage come out of Kush, Ethiopia, the only place that you could not colonialize. Fast forward to the 19th century, post our journey to these shores through shackled slavery. You granted us our freedom and left us to make a path of our own, certain that our outcome would not be victorious. But like a phoenix out of the ashes we rose. You forgot how you met us. You forgot we are inventors, creators, nurturers. You forgot our great works of ancient that you are yet to comprehend. You forgot we survived our vomit, our feces, our menstrual cycles, decomposing relatives, shackled and chained to each other as we journeyed for your economic benefit. But we did not forget. We cannot forget, because white privilege, your sins are still the same. Your behavior is still the same. We see you, but now we understand you better. Present day. If you have migrated to our homeland, but refuse to integrate with us and create systems and structures and communities outside of our own, understand we have seen this script before. Your intentions or plans will not come to pass. For unlike our ancestors, we will not be deceived, and we will not go back to the 17th through 19th century. Not because you have suddenly discovered our riches that we have built here, and you believe that you are more deserving because you understand their value better. Know that irregardless of our level of understanding at this time, the value of the riches we created will be for the benefit of our children. So no, we do not need you to appreciate their value. Our children will. White privilege, while we acknowledge your existence in the earth, you are not welcome among us, as your existence has only ever been to the detriment of our people. Our history records this. To the remainder of you who are a part of the human race and have consciously made a decision to migrate and dwell with us, we welcome you with open arms and loving hearts. But let us be very clear in our understanding. Your willing migration looks like integration. not segregation nor separation. Respect our land. It's my home. Abide by the rules we set here. Be kind to our children while you dwell here. Don't steal from us. Don't create bias and conflict among us. And for heaven's sake, don't bring your bad habits from your home to our shores. You fail to abide by these rules, and we will simply ask you to leave. Irregardless of the house you bought, the land you acquired, the investments you have made, the children you would have birthed while here, you disrespect me and my home, and in an attempt to disenfranchise our children, and this will not be your home. My life matters, Black Lives Matters, and at all costs, we will protect each other.
Black lives! Black lives! Sometimes the truth is hard to swallow, but it's okay. If you are thirsty, we do have a truck with some water. The water is free. Just get something to drink. And I believe you might need it after that. As we prepare to move on, we don't have that much left. We're not going to keep you for very, very long. But I'm inviting to the stage a young lady who you do see a lot. Her voice, I believe, is one of the potent voices that we need in this season. And I believe that what she has to say from a personal experience will open your eyes. But not only that, the poem that she will read will bring clarity and perspective to all. Please put your hands together for Miss Javon Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am, first of all, so proud of this blended effort today as we stand in solidarity with what's going on the international scene, but also as we highlight a lot of the ills in our very society. Amberly did a really, really great job at highlighting the facts, the history. And I like to go back to the word Sankofa, which is an African term, which means to go back and get. And I believe the first step to action is awareness. So that's where we begin as Black people, especially as young Black people within this movement today who may not know the history. And in order to understand where we're going, we need to go back and know our history. In order to understand the struggle and the rioting that some of us are so judgmental of as we speak, we need to understand the history, to understand why and when we arrived here. Now, I come from a country, Guyana, and racism is a very, very real issue in Guyana. Guyana is primarily populated by Blacks and Indians. And I grew up in a system where privilege denied me of my opportunity to simply find a job because of my skin color. I wrote a poem called The Rebel. And when people hear the name of the poem, they often question why rebel. But that poem highlights my journey in rebelling against standards that were never meant to fit me as a young Black woman in my country. And as much as the issue is overt and blatant in Guyana, I want to remind us that systemic racism is all around us, and we cannot deny that anymore. My t-shirt today says classism, shadism, sexism, xenophobia. All of those, my people, are byproducts of racism. And all of those things continue to manifest in our society. So I continue to applaud this effort, but I pray that we really keep the energy alive, because like many of our previous speakers said, it would not end today, and we need to keep the fire burning. Now today, I want to honor two women. First of all, I'm not the writer of this poem,
My dear sister April Glasgow, proud BV Islander, spirited poet, amazing woman. She wrote a piece and shared it in our poetry collective group that really touched me. And it's a tribute to Gianna Floyd. Who knows who Gianna Floyd is? Gianna Floyd is the daughter of George Floyd. So it doesn't have a name, but I'll just go ahead and read it. To the white man deeply concerned about the broken window at his Starbucks. What is a broken window to a daughter who will never again look through another window and see her daddy? Do not hurt your little head about breaking windows if you are not hurt by the broken black and brown bodies, brokenness encrypted into the genetic code of your prejudice. So broken glass should feel like home. The splinters you pretend not to see pierce the soles of your feet, but we bleed. Your privilege demands it, but we demand truth. So until you are honest to yourselves about the shattered glass and clean it up, we will continue to break anything. Break everything, word breaking. Break glass ceilings, break cycles of trauma, break generational curses, because this is revolution. When you no longer have the authority to break us because we cannot see you anymore. We are too busy putting ourselves back together and blessing our children with the futures that they deserve, free from your splinters. Thank you.
Is Aaron Parolin out there? I haven't seen him. Anyone? Aaron? The Jedi? No? All right, we've only got 2 more things to do before we take a knee. So the last thing we'll do before we leave here today is we're going to kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That was the amount of time that an officer had his knee on the neck of George Floyd. It is also symbolic of our stance today in solidarity. Before we get to that, I'm inviting to a stage the next generation of powerful BV Islanders, a young man who has come from a lineage who have always spoken out against injustices, a young man with a voice of his own, but who understands the struggle then, now, and to come. A young man who is wise beyond his age. A young man who continues to be a voice. Not this young man, but he is just as good. But before that young man comes to the stage, put your hands together for Aaron Parolin, Jedi.
Good afternoon, guys. So, in retrospect to what my brother said, my brother, Dr. Glasgow, said, I remember when I was living in Pennsylvania, I was completing my insurance certification, and I had to intern and go to a few houses. I'm out of breath because I was running when I heard Aaron Parolin from way back there. Excuse me. And I remember going to a house. I called the individual on the phone, and I made an appointment to see them. When I got to the house, they pulled across the curtain, closed it back. I knocked again. Pulled across, pulled it back. I got in my car and I called them. And I told them I was there. When I got back to the house, they opened the door and they said, I don't want any black boys selling me insurance. I left with my jawbone to the floor. First time I experienced anything like that. So when I got back to the office, I told a couple of them there what was going on. There was nothing but silence. Everyone went their way. No, I was the only African of descent person working there. So if you know my pain, you know exactly how I felt. Now, hence moving to Atlanta now, I was going to a party with some friends, and I got pulled over. I got pulled over. I was approached with a gun. And like Dr. Glasgow said, I kept calm, and the first response I remember giving to the officer, when he asked me for my license, I said, if I reach for my license, are you going to shoot me? He said, license and registration. I said, if I reach for my license, are you going to shoot me? Because I have both hands on the steering wheel, and I don't know whether to reach for it or whether to keep my hands here and continue to ask you the question. So I think he saw that I was a bit, scared, I'll say. And he told me, just reach for it, you're going to be good. And I say that to say this. Sometimes, we live in a community where we rarely experience these type of things, but there's no way we can sit in the back burner and say that we can't feel the Americans' pain. We can't say we don't feel their pain, because at the end of the day, we are all subject to the same situations. We're just in a different environment. And I said that to say this song I'm going to do, it's entitled Freedom. I wrote this song the day the young man died who was killed by George Zimmerman. Trayvon Martin, thank you. I wrote that exact day I wrote this song, and I hope it feeds into you guys. You hear the vibe in the song, right? Let's go. Song has a message also. I came from the streets to let my people go free. Unlock my thoughts and let my mind run free. I said I want to be great, but I gotta be free. Am I daily a rebel in the land of the free? Shoot me. I embrace all of my flaws, I ain't perfect. Society might say I'm full of ish and worthless, cause I ain't no puppet of kissing like yes man. I'm what you raise, I'ma break these shackles regardless. I'm Caribbean American, which means I'm Dominican inclusion, which means I'm triplicating apostle. Morph to a king like I was MLK, pearl to the throne in all gold. You claim I'm a threat, huh? That's how you label hood people that's hustling at the front so ends meet. I'm black, I know you recognize. You can't chain my people no more, we're mobilized. Black to black in orthodox ways we're socialized. Your mind's terrorized. When this Jedi rise and it is televised, I have evolved from the monkey stamp, notarized, group categorized, the heathen, even polarized. Sing it. I came from the streets to let my people go. Now let me hear you say freedom. Unlock my thoughts and let my mind. Now let me hear you say. I said I want to be great, but no, I gotta be free. Now let me hear you say. Am I daily a rebel in the land of the free? Shoot me. I embrace all of my flaws, I ain't perfect. Society might say I'm full of ish and worthless, cause I ain't no puppet or kissing like yes man. I want you raised, I'ma break these shackles regardless. Cops, I don't trust none. Just a uniform troop and black boots targeting black males to shoot. Politicians, I don't trust much. And it don't matter if you're black or white or criminals in the suit. I know you rape my people, I know you hate my people. Giving jobs don't replace those scars that you don't rape my people. Niggas, monkeys, and roaches named to degrade my people. But we ain't the better, some ain't the great. Just shit our people Bible, don't fail me now. Give me freedom of speech, I'm on page 3 now. These some be the reason demons pay me now. What's all prophesied? You trying to cage me now? Tell me how. Let's go. Black, black, black. Let's go. Black lives matter. Say black lives matter. Say black lives matter. Say black lives matter. I say let my people go free. Unlock my thoughts, let my mind run free. I wanna be great, but I gotta be free. I'm ideally a rebel in the land of the free. Let me hear you say black lives matter. Say black lives matter. Say freedom. Say freedom. Say freedom. Freedom. Now let me hear you say freedom. I came from the streets to let my people go free. Say freedom. Unlock my thoughts and let my mind run free.
I said I want to be great, but I got to be free. Now let me hear you say, on my daily, you rebel in the land of the free. Shoot me. Freedom. I came from these streets to let my people go free. Let me hear you say, unlock my thoughts and let my mind run free. Now let me hear you say, I said I want to be great, but I got to be free. Now let me hear you say, on my daily, you rebel in the land of the free. Shoot me. These are all of my flaws because I'm black. These are all of my flaws because I ain't whack. These are the haunted visions of Mike Jack. I'm riding third wheel passenger if it's Tupac. I might speak on ignorance, but I ain't no different from George Zimmerman. Nah, I said I might speak on ignorance, but who's the limit? Oh, man, let me hear you say freedom. I came from the streets to let my people go free. Now let me hear you say, unlock my thoughts and let my mind run free. Now let me let you say, I said I want to be great, but I got to be free. Now let me let you say, am I daily a rebel in the land of the free? Shoot me.
Come on, did you enjoy that? Come on, freedom. I'm supposed to exist in the land of the free. Somebody say freedom. But sometimes it seems that they want to hold me. Somebody shout freedom. I know I'm black, but sometimes I want you to just see me for me. Say freedom. This is why we march, because we need to be free. Yeah, I love that. We might have to make him do that one again. All right. Back to my introduction. Coming to the stage is a young man who is the next generation of social activists. He is the now generation of change, but the next generation of freedom for our BVI. Please put your hands together. Coming from a bloodline who continues to speak truth. Please put your hands together for Javon Klein.
Your presence around us with love, and we must all agree that it's time to stop pretending we cannot see. And if we
Good day,
all should
everyone.
close our eyes, we would never
I want to say thank you to everybody who's still here. I want to say thank you to the organizers of this awesome movement. This is not an event. This is a movement. This is not an event. This is a movement. Not just for those who are in America, but for everyone in the British Virgin Islands. This is not an event. This is a movement. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's how long it took George Floyd to lose his life. That's how long it took him to lose the breath of life that every human being is birthed with the right to have. That was 8 minutes and 46 seconds of no one taking a stand. That was 8 minutes and 46 seconds of no one reaching out their hands while the police stayed on his neck. People videotaped and watched that man die. It was 8 minutes and 46 seconds of powerlessness. The fact that George Floyd was not the first victim of racist brutality is not an excuse to sit back as all of this goes on. The fact that this did not happen on our shores is not an excuse for us to close our eyes and say, let them handle their problem. What are we doing? What are we doing? This is a danger that is real for us all. Our children are exposed. Our families live in their communities, and our sons and daughters go to their schools. We cannot afford to hide from this reality. British Virgin Islands, people of the BVI, we have been nature's little secret for far too long. We have gotten too accustomed to operating in secret, keeping secrets, and remaining ignorant to the reality of this war. It's time for us to stop being complacent with the idea of being a secret. It's time for the BVI and its people to walk the path of becoming an undeniable power. A power that can help nations in their times of crisis. A power that can stand as an example. Not a power of fear, not a power of control, but a power of freedom and strength. A power of hope, resources, and resilience. And I guarantee that this power is already in our genes. We have marched against the injustices of oppression, and we have prevailed. We have punished abusers of oppression, and we have redeemed their victims. We have set fire to the streets of the establishment, and we have built our nation in our image. We are powerful. And this power is a power that can be and desperately needs to be taught to every son and every daughter of our soil. And it needs to be shown to whoever comes to our shores with the heart to contribute to our cause as a British Virgin Islander. Our brothers and sisters in America are tired. Their suffering has lasted long beyond slavery. Their pain has traumatized and continues to traumatize generations to come. But we stand for them today. And I'm happy that we're here to support our brothers and our sisters and to say that we support you. Every victim in America, we support you. Every family that has lost a loved one to injustice, we support you. To the mother that's crying, we support you. To the daughter and the son who has to live without a father, who has to live without a mother, we support you. And we stand with you. We are here for you. We are with you. We are not too far, we are not too small, and we are not too ignorant. We stand with you. And to those oppressors, near and far, although our brothers and sisters in America are tired, I want those oppressors to know that I am not tired. I have the strength to march. I have the strength to speak. I have the strength to fight. And I am not going to get tired anytime soon. I am willing to stand for my brothers and sisters who are tired of standing. I am willing to stand and fight for my brothers and sisters who are tired of fighting. You do not have the upper hand. We are still in the fight, and we will not quit, and we will not bend, and we will not claim the position as victims. BVI, we have to stand. And we'll stand stronger if we stand together. We'll stand stronger if we start to fix some things at home, we're weaker when we use words like Down Island to describe brothers and sisters who have lived among us and contributed to our society for years, longer than some of us were even born. We are weaker when we discriminate based on heritage and favors. We are weaker when we steal from each other and cheat each other just to get the upper hand for the few moments of life that we have on this tiny planet. We are weaker when the Virgin Islands is all a man, a woman, a boy, or a girl knows, but he or she still can't feel comfortable enough to call it home because of what they have to face every day when they step out into the streets and face people who tell them that they are not from here because of how they look, because of how they speak, or where their parents came from. That makes us weak. And we will never be able to stand up for anyone in any nation or any neighbor as long as we entertain that behavior. It's time we take a stand for what's right. So stop hiding. Stop killing. Stop discriminating against our own. We have to stop so we can be a true pillar, a true power and support for nations that find themselves in crisis. This change starts here. And for the BVI, this change starts now. Thank you very much.
The change is here and now. We've only got one more speaker. And before she comes on, I want to read you a few quotes from a forum that we held on last Friday. But I also want to say this. We are happy that you are standing with us. I am hopeful because we are standing together. We had a lot of choices on who to bring to the podium today, and trust me, it was a lot of choices. But we made a decision when we came together as a group, and I'll tell you really what happened. I was planning a march, Via was planning a march, and Amberly were selling the t-shirts that you're wearing today. The donation, the proceeds from those t-shirts, they're going to the Colin Kaepernick Foundation. Colin Kaepernick 5 years ago took a knee in the NFL. He was an NFL player. He doesn't even play anymore because he refused to stand for the national anthem when black lives were being slain in the streets of America. He lost endorsements and his livelihood because he knelt down during a Super Bowl when the national anthem was being played. And the proceeds from the t-shirts are going towards a foundation that he set up. So after he lost his job, his endorsements, and his livelihood, he took the money he had and he decided to educate black children everywhere. But he did it strategically. When the moms were pregnant, his organization approached them and said, "We are willing to educate your child." Two different, my bad. Thanks, Amberly. Thanks. His foundation ensured that in 9 states initially that they were teaching black Americans their legal rights. Because the truth is, the law says ignorance of the law is not an excuse to commit a crime. So what they did is they set forth to ensure that every black American who could potentially be subject to some sort of discrimination knew their rights. Out of those 9 states, and after the killing and the murder of George Floyd, he expanded his funding to all 50 states, specifically to bond or bail out peaceful protesters who are a part of the global movement that is happening throughout the world. So in the 50 states in America, the proceeds that we have raised and will be sending off, they will be sent forth to bail out peaceful protesters as a part of Colin Kaepernick's movement. So we really thank you for supporting the cause. Not only is that cause important to us, but we had a lot of conversations over the past couple weeks, and one thing we made very clear in our conversation, and I hope you saw it today, we didn't want to have any political affiliation. So we didn't ask anyone to speak or to endorse or to, we don't want any of it, because that's not what we're here for. We didn't want to have voices that you are accustomed of hearing but not really listening to. We wanted to make sure that the persons who were on the podium today are persons who have a personal experience, a real experience, and who are sick and tired of what has been happening and demand change. I know they don't want me to do it, but I want to call some names. Deidre Fret, standing in the corner over there. Raise your hand. Deidre set out on her own to start a movement and then realized there were some of us here and decided to come together. Deidre is an American BVI lander, and I think she rotates, is that right? Living in the BVI for business, on a business front. So the next time you head down to Packwood Point or East End, spend all your money at Five Girls. We endorse that message. Deidre decided that I know what it's like to be an American and be subject to this. Deidre decided that we must say something today. And because of that, she reached out, and we have all been able to sit together. Thea, who you'll hear from next, is one of very few black people in her class. And every time they talk about black history, they look back at her. Do you know how that feels? Do you know what it feels like when they talk about the slaves, that they feel it's necessary to look back at you to make you feel even worse than you feel already? Yeah. So she understands the struggle. Amberly had had enough. Like me, we have done our share of protesting. We have done our share of going out and speaking about the issues, and we thought, you know what, that's it. We are going to walk, and I ain't see the commissioner, hopefully he's gone. We decided we were gonna walk whether the commissioner gave us permission or not. We decided as a group that we were gonna start a little funding in case we needed bail. Because we had made a collective decision that whether it was the five of us or whether it was all of you, that we were gonna stand for something today. And last Friday when we reached out to a few people, Sarah Penny, I don't know where she is. When we reached out to Kalima, I don't know where Kalima and her mom is, Nikoi and a bunch of others, and we said we want to talk about these issues. Are you okay? They said, yeah, we're okay. I know that Cedar School, I don't know where the students are, some of you are in the front, they disrupted their normal session to talk about why Black Lives Matter. And this is why we're here today. Because Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, yes. But the only house that's on fire right now is the black house in the neighborhood. And we need you to help us put it out. Hailing from a small village in the Virgin Islands that continues to ooze cultural pride. Birthed into a family of social activists. People who are agents of change, wealth builders. Taught by the teacher of teachers, Teacher Bell. Raised by her parents to find and hone her voice. To stand firm in her uniqueness. She is a singer. She is an artist. She is articulate. She is bold yet humble. She is a black woman on a mission. Put your hands together for one of the pioneers of today's movement, Via Donovan Hodge!
No one's ever heard him speak, although he'll stare.
What an introduction. And Angel, thank you so much. First, I want to thank everybody who came out today, everybody who has been supportive of this movement, socially, publicly, on social media, everybody who helped plan this and put this together. Thank you. My heart goes out to all of you. This is so much more than I ever expected in the beginning of this. As Angel said, we said if it was just the 5 of us, we were going to come. So, thank you. And I think this is a real step towards some change for us personally and for the world, moreover, as we begin, to make ourselves more aware. So thank you to all of you guys. I appreciate you so much. Progress. Progress is defined as the act of moving forward to a goal. But before we begin to move forward to that goal, we first must understand what our goal is and how we can move forward to achieve it. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, to 2 native Virgin Islanders who had left their home for education and then decided to stay and further their careers. My mother, who never wanted to raise kids in America, decided when I was 3 we're moving back home. And even though, I lived in Tortola until I decided to go back to New York as my mother did for school, for college, my experience growing up was never singularly a single BVI experience. I went back to the States during the 3 months in the summer to spend time with family, to go to summer camps, etc. So I think I always had a understanding of, things on both sides of the spectrum. And from that understanding, I realized that, attitudes weren't the same in regards to the blackness of my skin and in regards to how I was able to move and navigate in these different spaces. So, I was 8, 9 when I realized that, things were different and that I would come home and certain things would seem different than when I had left. And, certain comments that people would make, I think, within our borders would seem to, be harmless until I realized, the place in which they were stemming from. And that's, noticing those things and noticing our issues is where we begin to identify and fix and correct so that we can reach our end goal. And our end goal is destruction of this issue, not only in our society, not only in Tortola, not only in the US, but across the world. If we don't, as young people, as human beings, fight for something now, as things have been being fought for over the last 100 years, then when are we going to fight, The question is, why us? Why now? Why us? Because we are alive now, Why us? Why now? Because we exist in this time and, we are being faced with the issues. And this is our present situation, and there's no way in which we can ignore that. So we have to take our steps forward in order to change a mindset so that our children in 20 years don't have these same stories to relate to us. My mother and my uncle tell me stories of not growing up in New York, but going to college in New York and things that they encountered and things that they experienced. And I live in the same apartment building my mother did back then. And it's crazy because, a lot of things haven't changed. There are many, 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 many things that have, but at the same time, we can sit in her bedroom at night and have conversations and be like, oh, yes, I've been through that too, or yes, I've noticed that too. And I find that sad. I find that the things that we can sit and relate to are things of struggle and not things of joy and not things of, this is how we have moved forward and this is, how we have done better. So I want better for my kids. I don't want to have to say, I have, this going on in place X, but I'm going to move when I have my kids because I don't want them to have to be exposed to, this level of discrimination. Because even though geographically it may separate us and change the degree into which things are expressed, it's no better, things travel. So our goal here is to inform and educate the people of the BVI because I am of faith that, the things that have been said in the side comments in which this is not necessary were made out of a place of ignorance. And as we have said, countless people before me have said, we want to educate our people. We want to move forward and we want to progress as a people. I think that this march today and everybody who has been here, you all are necessary. And this is a necessary action because we need to be seen among ourselves. And we need to know that we see ourselves no matter where we are. We need to know that we matter. Whether we are in the BVI, whether we are in Africa, whether we are in Asia, whether we are in the United States of America, we matter to us. If we don't matter to anybody else, that's fine. Because we need to matter to us and we need to make them see that we matter. And that will change. I also think that it's important that we realize that, within our borders, as has been said previously, we go to the States and we're not seen as, separate Caribbean people. We are seen as black. And that is the thing that we will be judged off of. And we need to recognize that, this is not an African American, an Asian American, you are from South Sudan, so, there's a different experience, and we're not going to all fight for the same cause, because we are one people. We are one people of the African diaspora, and this is all our issue. We all got to our different corners of the world during the slave trade. We were all taken from our homeland and taken to these other places during the same era. We all had our histories erased together, and some of us have managed to fight our way out. Here in the BVI, we have managed to fight our way out of certain things. We burned down those institutions in order to build something better for ourselves, and we should want better for those of us who don't have those privileges. Martin Luther King said that in the end, it is not the words of our enemies that we will remember, but the silence of our friends. And so today we are here to break the silence, because black lives, what? Black lives. And so we need to adopt the vision of change and uplifting our voices to bring forth the necessary actions, not only to disassemble the policies and symbols currently in place that are holding us down, but to disintegrate the souls of those who may think that it should live on. We need to reverse the conditions that were set in place to make us perish by ending our silence. To sit here and diminish this movement to the BVI, trying to be in thing, as the young people like to say, or following a movement, is something more than it seems on the outside, because it then diminishes the struggle of the African people. It minimizes racial tensions and injustices to U.S. borders and says that once I get on a boat and go, that will no longer exist. It fails to recognize that this did not start with George Floyd. This will not end with George Floyd. We have black men that have been hung, that have been shot in the process since his death, died for the cause. And so we can't minimize this and say that, this is a one-time thing, or this is a current issue and this is going to fade, because this is and always has been a worldwide issue that presents itself in different ways. Yes, we have our own issues in our home, but hopefully standing in solidarity with in this moment with our people, for justice irregardless of circumstance. Justice irregardless of circumstance. Justice irregardless of where it has to come from. Justice regardless of who we have to stand up to, and the people we may have to make uncomfortable, and the borders we may have to break, and the systems we may have to rebuild. Justice is the end goal. And we for ourselves can stand here. We can continue to create conversation within these borders, within our people, within our lands, within our hearts, so that in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, I don't have to find myself standing in this park again, or my daughter standing in this park fighting for the same thing. It'll be a different story, a story of victory, a story of change, a story of how we got our justice. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all so much. You are the faces of change. Our tomorrow begins when? And that's all.
A friend sent this to me today when I felt like I was out of words, and it says, "Your support matters." Support is a statement of your conscience. Support is about being on the right side of history. Support is lending your voice to the cry for all of humanity to be treated with decency and respect. Support is about affirming the dignity of all humanity. Support and public support advances the cause that is long overdue. No matter the color of your skin, the texture of your hair, the nationality in your passport, we are all a part of the human race. So I want you to remember that as we close out today. We are going to take 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and I want you to do something with us. We're going to take a knee, because George Floyd on a hot pavement had his head, his neck, his body pressed into the ground by the knee of someone who was an oppressor. Excreting on himself, he cried out for a woman who had died 2 years before. Mama, mama, do you know how hard it must be for a grown man to bawl out for his mother? It must mean that he couldn't take it anymore. Some say it means that he saw her as his soul was leaving his body. Some say it's because he knew it was the end. We don't have that type of problem in the BVI, nor are we going to allow it. But what we do know is that it exists, and as black people, we must stand together. And as I just read, as all people, as a race, as a human race, we must stand up for something. Your silence means that you are not with us. You are complying with the enemy. Your voice here, whether in action or in word, means that you recognize that something is wrong and you will not stand for it. And for that, we appreciate you. So right now, I'm going to ask you just to take 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It will be the longest 8 minutes and 46 seconds that you will kneel. The stand that we take today is on one knee. And we're doing it symbolically. Officers, I know you have a job to do, but I would appreciate you standing in solidarity with us. Because this is important. It is important for you as officers of the law to understand what it feels like. It is important for us to understand what it could have felt like. It is important that we understand that we will no longer stand for this. Auntie Peggy, I know you can't take a knee, but you do your best, okay? You do your best. So if we can, I'm going to set my timer. And for 8 minutes, we will kneel. That is only 1 minute. Two minutes. Without skipping a beat, he kept his knee. This is 3 minutes. This is where he started to yell, "I can't breathe." We're at 4 minutes. I am trembling and losing strength, yet he persisted. This is 5 minutes. Six minutes. Seven minutes. Are your knees hurting yet? Eight minutes. song you're about to hear was a song created by a young man in Australia whose wife I met on a different journey. He's a global artist, and when I first posted "Kneel with me, not on me," he was inspired and created this song. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. You can get up.
Kneel with me, don't kneel on me. Get off of my neck. I can't breathe. I want to live, 'cause I got kids, and you can't justify what you doing with what I did. Hey, yeah. Respect to George Floyd and every innocent black man murdered. His daughter's tears makes my heart feel burdened. I thought the world was about to harmonize. Now the feeling is so uncertain. If we don't heal, how can we go further? But we can't heal if there's no justice. Should we respect the system we don't trust in? We're reaching for some Skittles, get you bust quick. That's why we're so reluctant to vote when all these issues of injustice get no justice. Does a black life mean nothing? Nothing. As things get real, I think about Emmett Till. 65 years, they trying to get justice for Emmett Still. There must be a solution for us all. My family habit to read my eulogy. Still, I look at my kids and they bring hope to my eyes. Half black, half white. Who said our races can't coincide? We've come this far divided. Imagine how much further this world can go united. My wife told me, baby, you gotta get up and fight it. Ignorance is not bliss. Don't remain in silence to any kind of violence. Anyone who hate on me, I got no hate for 'em. The higher path, I forgive and even pray for 'em. Like Dr. King, I'm dreaming too every day for us. The days of change are soon to come and I can't wait for 'em. Kneel with me. Don't kneel on me. Get off of my neck. I can't breathe. I want to live, 'cause I got kids, and you can't justify what you doing with what I did. Kneel with me. Don't kneel on me. Get off of my neck. I can't breathe. I want to live, 'cause I got kids, and you can't justify what you doing with what I did. Hey, yeah.
There are just a few people I want to say thank you to. Their slogan says, CCT is we. And I just want to thank you, because we didn't have to ask you any questions. You reached out and you said, we will cover the movement. Please take it back to whoever is in charge, Renard and the entire team, because we really appreciate you covering the movement. I want to say thank you to the Five Girls team. I want to say thank you to Amberly and her business. I want to say thank you to all the young people, to Jay, to Kalima, to Kyla, to Javon, to Via, to all of the young people who stood with us nights and days as we decided that we would do this. When we sat together, sometimes we tried not to cry because it really hurts us at a different place. But if your knee hurts right now, then you understand why we had to march today. If you thought that was too long, you understand why the movement must be televised. If you think that 8 minutes and 46 seconds was too much, we are black. Imagine what we've been dealing with for our whole lives. Xenophobia, classism, sexism, racism, colorism. It must not continue in my BVI. We will not stand for it. So we just want to say thank you from the police department to the commissioner, the governor, the premier, everyone who said to us, go forth and be great. We thank you. I want to say a special thank you to the parks, to the city manager, because they didn't hesitate. Even when we had got some wires crossed, they still came through and said, we're with you. We're with you. This is what you need to do. I want to say thank you to everyone who even in the back of your heads you thought, you know, I don't know if we should do this today, but you still came out. Thank you. God bless you. And before we leave, I'm just going to ask all the plastic bottles, we're recycling. The earth matters. Okay? So as we leave, take up all your plastic bottles. You can leave them with me. We're going to recycle them. But on top of that, I want you to remember this movement will continue. Next Friday, the shirts you're wearing, we're doing a BVI Blackout Friday. So we're asking all of you to wear your T-shirts on next Friday. Take photos, post it, do whatever you want to do, but we want to turn BVI Black on Friday just as a reminder. And then next Friday, which is the 3rd, the one after, is it the one after this? The 3rd of July. So the 3rd of July is Blackout Friday. Following this movement today, conversations will continue. So please follow the BVI Black Lives Matter page to hear and be a part of the discussions, because that is when we're going to talk about the things that separate us in the BVI. Now we've dealt with America, it's time to clean house. God bless you and good night.